After a couple of chilly days, we are talking about a big-time warm-up near record warmth, potentially breaking records again as we get towards the end of this work week. What's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Keg is back with you. We're going to talk about the heat returning, but it is not going to stick around. Just like the last time, another big cold front going to take over as we get into next week. This is going to be a little bit down the road into the long range. We are going to talk about that as well before we give you your pinpoint forecast for North Florida, Central Florida, and into South Florida. Before we get into the video, if you do want to stay updated on all things weather in Florida, hit that subscribe button for me, the thumbs up button if you find this content helpful, and I hope you do. Please hit that. It's a small ask, but it really does help us out a lot, especially as we venture into the rest of severe weather season coming up on spring, and then, of course, hurricane season. So right now, all is quiet. Again, that same area of high pressure that's hanging out right here over the next couple of days. We're fast forwarding into tomorrow. It came at us from here. So first and foremost, it induced a northerly wind to help cool us down and bring in some of that relative warmth. Now we're talking about this area of high pressure by Wednesday, by tomorrow, getting out over to the Atlantic, and that is going to induce a wind out of the south and southeast, and then eventually getting it out of the southwest, and all of that warmth is going to build. That's hanging out in parts of the Caribbean, the southwest Gulf of Mexico, and then really start to surge in this way as we get deeper into this week ahead. So especially a Thursday, Friday timeline, and then right on into the weekend, it is going to be really, really hot. Would not be surprised if we have more 90-degree readings across the state of Florida. Of course, we did hit 90 officially in Orlando last Saturday. That was the really, really big warm day across most of the state of Florida. So we'll take it through early tomorrow and see we're starting things off a little bit warmer than where we have been over the past few days. We're going to get back into the low to mid 80s across most of the Florida Peninsula. Florida Panhandle, we're still talking about 60s and 70s, so a little bit cooler, but still nice and comfortable for us. And then it's really as we get into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's when the big time warmth is going to start to surge back into the Florida Peninsula especially. So here we go on March 17th. This is going to be on Sunday. This is just the model forecast. I do suspect, especially from Orlando right down for us through Lake Okeechobee, kind of right in here, that's where we're going to have an opportunity to really flirt with 90 degrees. And again, this is going to be over the weekend, maybe even as early as Friday. At the very least, most of us are going to be in record territory, likely missing it by a few degrees, at least from a Central Florida perspective. Most of our high temperature records for the weekend and the end of this work week are in the low to mid 90s. So it's going to take a huge, huge jump in those temperatures to really get us into record, at least breaking the records, but it's going to be close. We're going to be in the same ballpark anyway. So that is getting us into the upcoming weekend, but then changes start to come down the pipeline already. So here we go. This is later on Wednesday, and we're starting to see some things change a little bit. The jet stream becoming a little more wavy, but right now, all of the colder air is where that dip in the jet stream's hanging out. This is a nice big upper low, big time snowstorm closer to Colorado, the Four Corners region, out in the Front Range, the Rockies. And as that is happening as well, this little ridge that is built over the southeast corner in the upper levels of our atmosphere also kind of partnering, working in tandem with that surface high pressure that's out over the Atlantic to pump up that warmth. So a couple of things working together to get us back into record territory and back close to 90 degrees by the end of this work week and into the weekend. So we see that here. Watch what happens, though. Big pattern change starts to come, and we talked about this in February. If you watch one of our earlier videos in February, we were talking about a likely late season, meaning winter, because that officially ends on the 19th, or early spring blast of cold. Here we are. Let me get rid of my big L. That is not there anymore. Now, what we have going on is this ridge of high pressure building to the west. So this is where all the warmth is going to be. We're going to make a W there for the warm weather. All this blue here, these are lower than normal heights. This is the upper level height pattern now. Where you see that blue, that's where you have the colder air again. Lower heights, colder air, that's what we have kind of building in, blasting out of the Hudson Bay area down to the eastern two-thirds of the United States, including Florida. Now look at the date. This is Monday, March 18th. So this is that transition day. I think it's not going to be frigid by any means. I think it's going to be colder than this last round of cooler air that we were dealing with over the past few days. But again, it's not January. It's even not February. We're getting into March. There's not a ton of snow up that way to really insulate that air mass, but it is going to be significantly cooler than where we are going over the next few days. We're talking about temperatures back to around 90 and then maybe into the Florida Panhandle by next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Struggling to get out of the 50s in Central Florida, maybe struggling to get out of the 60s. I think we're going to largely miss out in South Florida of this blast of cold. But again, I wanted to show you that. And then you see here, this is the 20th, and the core of this starts to pivot back up into the Canadian Maritimes. We start to level out the jet stream once again, and then that is going to allow us to quickly warm things up. So maybe a 2.5-ish day blast of cold coming, arriving at least for North Florida on the 18th, settling in on the 19th and 20th, and then kind of rebounding back to more seasonable numbers, and then likely beyond again after that as we get into the 21st, maybe 22nd. So that's going to be our timeline there for that round of colder air to slide through. As far as tomorrow goes, for us along the Florida Panhandle, nice day coming our way. 72 in Apalachicola. We're going to see a few extra clouds right off the Gulf. 77 in Tallahassee, 80 in Jacksonville tomorrow. This is going to be for Wednesday, March 13th. St. Augustine, I should say, 76 for us. And then we're at 71 with a mix of clouds and sunshine in Pensacola. Down into Central Florida, for us in Tampa, we're at 82. Daytona Beach, good afternoon. We're at 81. 81 at the Cape, 83 in Vero Beach. Lakeland, we are at 82. St. Pete Beach, we are at 78 degrees. Remember, this is what we talked about last week as well. We have the breeze out of the south off the water, so that gives us temperatures just a couple of degrees cooler. Nothing crazy. The Gulf is really, really warm, but relatively cooler. When you get that south wind or southwesterly wind, we're cooler on the Gulf side. South Florida, what's going on in Fort Pierce? We're at 82. 82 also in Miami. Fort Lauderdale, we're back to the lower 80s as well. Fort Myers, we're checking in at 84 on Wednesday, March 13th. We're doing pretty good in the Keys. That breeze out of the south and east at about 80 degrees. I should say at about 8 to 10 miles an hour. We're going to be at about 80 degrees for high temperatures with a lot of sunshine if you're headed to the Keys or living in the Keys or visiting in the Keys. Alrighty, guys, so that's what we're watching. We're back into this roller coaster theme again, and with that pattern as well, with that wavy jet stream that I showed you that helps to deliver that colder air to the eastern two-thirds of the United States, it does typically turn a little stormy as well, so we may see more storm systems as we get ready to round out March and then start April. Remember, we are still entrenched into that El Nino pattern, although La Nina is trying to come on strong. At least the water temperature anomalies out in that region that characterize ENSO, El Nino Southern Oscillation, are starting to come on strong, and that's obviously not good news for hurricane season, but that is going to be a story for another time. Again, right now we are still well entrenched into that El Nino pattern to keep the clouds around and to keep those storm systems sliding through. If you found this content helpful, please, guys, hit that thumbs up button for me, and if you want to stay updated on the weather in Florida, we all know it's crazy, hit that subscribe button, and we will catch you next time.